It is predicted that on August 17th, 2024, former President Jimmy Carter will die. I do realize that no skeptic will believe that predicting the date of Jimmy Carter's death will be anything more than luck or coincidence, given his age of 99 years old and him currently being in a hospice. That is why it is also being predicted that on August 21st, the date of Jimmy Carter's predicted funeral, is the predicted death of James Earl Jones. And Jimmy Carter's full name is James Earl Carter. James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader and the voice of the Lion King. Jimmy Carter was born in 1924 and will die in 2024 because the 2424th word, 2424th word, in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word Jesus. Jimmy Carter, JC, hints at Jesus Christ. James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King, who also played King Jaffe Jaffer in the movie Coming to America, is King symbolism. JC, Jesus Christ, is the King of Kings. No rational person will be able to conclude that when Jimmy Carter will die on August 17th, and James Earl Jones will die on August 21st, as predicted, that it will be a coincidence or random luck. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14, on August 21st, 2024. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. Harris's plane is predicted to crash in St. Louis on Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. on August 21st, because Simon and Garfunkel's first studio album was named Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. But her flight is predicted to depart Los Angeles LAX Airport on August 20th. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on August 17th, and that his prophetic funeral, in which Trump will sit next to Obama, will be on August 21st. I am predicting that James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on August 21st, which is the same day on which it is predicted that Carter's funeral will be on. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 19th. I am predicting that on September 3rd, a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun that will then send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on September 5th, 2024, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. This will also trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano, which is predicted to erupt on September 5th. The hit of the coronal mass ejection predicted for September 5th that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. September 5th will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. I am predicting that on September 6th, 2024, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. September 6th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. September 6th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is probable that on September 6th, Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. September 6th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. September 6th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. It is predicted that after Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as his vice president, and this will be announced at the Democratic National Convention, and this will be announced on the last day of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago on August 22nd. And on this same day, the Democrat Party will select Michelle Obama as their nominee for the presidential election. I am predicting that Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president on September 19th. I am predicting that President Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president on October 12th, 2024. I am predicting that Michelle Obama will step down and Barack Obama will become the 48th president on November 2nd, 2024. It is predicted that on August 27th, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. And this is going to happen sometime before October 12th, 2024. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on August 25th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on August 26th. I am predicting that on August 29th, President Trump will die from a heart attack. I am predicting that on October 9th, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit on Earth. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, will be on December 26th, 2024. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right, this video will be talking about the Lord's signs that confirm for us through this prediction that Jimmy Carter will die on August 15th, that Pope Francis is the Antichrist. This is an amazing video. All right, it was recognized before August 15th came and went that it would only be a step on the trail of signs leading to August 17th. The amazing signs that relate to Jimmy Carter that occurred on August 15th are explained in many of the other videos, so there's really no point in for me to insert another 15 or so minute clip explaining what happened on August 15th. Just watch the other videos. Anyway, Jimmy Carter was born in 24, will die in 2024, and that hints at G2424, which is the word in the Greek concordance that means Jesus, and Jimmy Carter's initials hints at Jesus Christ, and this is why August 17th will be 24 plus 24 days after August 15th. But watch the other videos for the explanation for how the trail of signs leads from August 15th to August 17th. Correction, it is 24 plus 24 hours from August 15th to August 17th. All right, you've probably seen this diagram already. It's in a number of the other videos, and so I'm not going to explain it, but what I just said was that August 17th would be 24 hours plus 24 hours after August 15th, and the signs on August 15th, which, as I just said, I would not explain in this video. All right, but August 17th ended up being another step in the trail of signs, which I've explained in the other videos, but the signs pointed to 13 points, as I explained. It was 1 plus 3 days after the 13th, and it is 13 days from August 17th to August 30th to the Trump at Johnstown sign, and Mike Carter, the survivor from Jonestown. And anyway, that in turn is 22 days because the number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, which is the pointy thing. And the people that were in the mass suicide murder in Jonestown took pointy things. And okay, so anyway, that's how we get to Jimmy Carter's death here. Now, the reason for this video is the amazing evidence, or rather connections that God was pointing to for August 15th. But it's not about August 15th. It's about the connections to August 15th and the story that God is telling that is extremely important. So watch the rest of this amazing video. Actually, let me just add before we continue that August 15th was the 45th anniversary of the release of the movie Apocalypse Now. In Catholic Bibles, the book of Revelation is called Apocalypse. Same meaning. It means the revealing, the removal of the veil. And the movie Apocalypse Now cost $45 million to make. And it was also the anniversary of Victory Day in the Pacific when World War II ended in 45, 79 years earlier. And the number 79 is the 22nd prime number, which is the number that symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. Again, we have the 22 days, as I was saying right here. Okay, so August 15th was very important, and on this day we had pointy thing signs. Okay, we had a very, very important pointy thing sign furthermore. So again, that'll be explained. I just wanted to add, though, how important August 15th was. I didn't even really explain anything, actually. I just want to emphasize how important on the surface August 15th is. I didn't explain anything that happened on August 15th. But it was such a huge date that God was pointing to, including with these connections that identify the Antichrist, Pope Francis. And so that is the reason why this video must be watched. The date of this email was August 13th, before August 15th, as you can see here, okay, August 13th. If you are skeptical for some reason, you can email me and I will forward this to you. Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope. Okay, this is important. This is one of the reasons why Pope Francis is the Antichrist. The leader of the Jesuit order goes by the nickname Black Pope. The Jesuit order is known for its mysticism practices and emphasis on personal spiritual experience, which makes Jesuits ripe for demonic deception and influence. This version of Christianity has little to do with the Bible. It is perfect, I should say, nothing to do with the Bible. It is perfect for deceiving the masses at this time in history. The masses in the Western civilization have left Christianity often in search of personal spiritual experience. From everything from yoga to meditation to ayahuasca to you name it, to actually Pentecostalism and charismatic church. There are many parallels between the New Age movement and that seeks personal spiritual experience and Pentecostalism. They are one and the same in a way. Throughout history, Catholics have been easy prey for deceiving demons. Catholics are constantly being deceived with mystical, supernatural experiences, which they claim to confirm for them their Catholicism, because they are receiving the deception that they ask for. That's exactly why. If you are searching for these spiritual experiences to confirm your false religion, God is going to give you the spiritual experiences that you are asking for. That's how it works. This is clear in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Okay, and I know firsthand, by the way, in my 20s, early 20s, I practiced meditation and did so with an international meditation group, and the leader of which was the leader of meditations at the United Nations, a famous guru. Because I had no Christian upbringing at all, I grew up in what you might call typical Canadian agnostic atheist environment where God was never, ever talked about. And as such, like most people in the West today, whether they had a Christian background or not, a lot of people have ended up rejecting, if you will, completely materialism, positivism, and having some form or a level degree of a belief in pantheism, which is that God is not a personal being, but an impersonal energy. And we are all part of that. Basically, literally, the Eastern religion, which has been repackaged in what you might call New Age religion or New Age or New Spirituality. In other words, the Indian religion for Westerners that allows them to pick and choose whatever they want to go with their Indian religion and worldview. So anyway, I used to practice meditation with serious meditation practitioners in a group, and the group meditations would often be quite powerful, leaving you with a supernatural high for many days, which would gradually dissipate and require that you go back for another round of it. And that's called spiritual bondage. It's how Satan works in trapping people in general. It's the same thing that goes on with yoga practitioners. I know people that are really into yoga, and all of them will say that it isn't exercise, of course. It's a spiritual practice. What yoga truthfully is a gateway to New Age religion. It's like cigarettes being a gateway to alcohol and harder drugs later for younger people. The same is true for yoga. It's a gateway drug. And that's what it is. The supernatural high that yoga people get, the same as the meditation practitioners, is a supernatural high that they think confirms for them their religion, their worldview, and their spirituality, if you might want to call it that. But it brings them in and it gives them a high, like a recreational drug user, but then a lower low afterwards. At first you get the high, and then you end up needing to do the drug, like a drug addict, just to get back to normal eventually. And that's the case with meditation and yoga practitioners. They eventually get into serious trouble and depression. And not that I went that far, but I got a glimpse of what others have experienced, and you can get their testimonies on YouTube. Okay, so that's what happens because it's spiritual bondage, and that's how it works. But my point is that you get the spiritual, God gives the spiritual deception to those that are asking for that spiritual deception, like Catholics. All right? Now, I, for example, met a Catholic and spoke with her for a long time and had no reason to disbelieve her, and she told me about an experience with some other people. She was in a group in a cathedral, and the wafer that the Catholics believe is part of their salvation levitated off of the table. This is like an example of what I'm talking about this constant supernatural experiences that Catholics have. Okay, so the piece of bread, the wafer of bread that's in the shape of a gold sun, by the way, because it's inherited from pagan sun worship before Rome converted to Catholicism, and that's why it's held up on a stick with the sun rays coming out of it and held up above the people. It's worshiping the sun. It's rooted in that anyway. But so they worship this gold round piece of wafer, and anyway, that's why, so the thing is that the round gold wafer levitated off of the table in front of the group. Now, the question is, I have no reason to doubt that happened. Absolutely that happened. But the question is, why did that happen, or how did it happen? Well, there are only two options. One, angels lifted the bread off the table to encourage the Catholics to take more pieces of bread for their salvation. Or two, it was a demon or demons that lifted the piece of bread off the table to encourage Catholics to take more of the bread for their salvation. And that's, in a nutshell, Catholicism for you. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing disguised as Christianity, pagan religion, in order to fool people into what supposedly is their salvation, which contradicts the Bible. That's also why Catholics don't read the Bible. And I mean that somewhat literally. I mean, most Catholics, the vast majority of them, don't read the Bible. And the ones that do, well, anyway. So anyway, we get the deception we ask for, and that's what I just wanted to explain a little bit more. And what I'm saying here is that throughout history, Catholics have been easy prey for deceiving demons. Catholics are constantly deceived with mystical supernatural experiences because they are receiving the deception that they ask for. And okay, this is again why the Antichrist is the first Jesuit pope, because the Jesuit order is known for its mystical practices and emphasis on personal spiritual experience, which isn't the Bible. If you are seeking personal spiritual experience, it's about you, which is the opposite of what Jesus taught, which is sacrifice. So why in the world would you be awarded or rewarded for pursuing spiritual experience, such as a so-called higher level of consciousness that's achieved when meditating? What does that have to do with anything? It's all about you. That's why New Age religion and Catholicism is narcissism, and an analogy is like a little child. They are immature. New Agers are immature religious people. They are immature in their worldview and spirituality, if you want to call it that. Same with Catholics. Catholics, not every Catholic is into the Jesuit order type of thing, but what's coming is an encouragement of the things that the Jesuits do. When the end times really get going and the Antichrist takes his seat of power, he will be deceiving the masses and encouraging them, along with other players, that are demonically influenced as well, including demons pretending to be aliens. They will talk about these supposed spiritual practices that lead to supposed spiritual evolution. But it's all about you. It's all about the individual. It's not about sacrifice. Although the irony is that they claim to have a worldview that makes them a drop in the bucket of consciousness, etc. One with the universe, and they are claiming to be the opposite of the ego and selfishness. But in truth, it's such a lie. They're in fact focused on themselves. When have you ever heard of a yoga charity for the poor, for example, or a yoga church? Okay, so what I'm also saying, though, is that there will be a confluence of the New Age movement and Catholicism in the last days of deception before the return of Christ, which, by the way, will be this December. So this deception is going to get going very soon. In fact, I believe it'll be on, the beginning of this will be on September 6th. Something symbolic will begin this on September 6th. It could, in fact, be the Pope announcing to the world that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. That will happen. I don't know if it'll happen on September 6th or not, which will give him power or authority over the governments of the world instantly. Also, there will be at some point, and maybe on September 6th, a massive Mary apparition. But all Mary apparitions in history, including at Lourdes and Fatima and in Bosnia, they've all been demons pretending to be Mary. And it's quite clear to anyone that knows the Bible, because everything they say is contradictory of the gospel. But Catholics don't know the gospel because they don't know Christianity, they don't know the Bible, and everything that they hear about Christianity is told to them from the Catholic system, which is a lie. Okay? They need to read the Bible for themselves and forget what they've been taught from their Catholicism, but that's really difficult for them to do because of their pride. And pride is the root of sin in the Bible. Satan fell due to his pride, which is why the Catholics are deceived, because it's their pride. They do not want to leave their traditions. It would mean leaving their family, etc., their community or whatever, the cathedral that they go to, if they have any kind of community with it. I kind of doubt it, because they just, from what I can see, is they just go there and sit in the pew and then leave, but and give them their money. But so anyway, that's pride is the big factor here that prevents someone from being born into a religion to seeking truth. But Christianity is about humility, the opposite of pride. And the humble person will question whether the religion that they were born into is in fact the true one. I mean, wow, you really have won the lottery if you accidentally got born into the true religion. But for these people, they're not interested in truth. They're interested in tradition and family and pride, tribalism. That's what trumps more important than seeking truth. Well, anyway. So, the most central prophecy in the Bible, which is Daniel chapter 9, regards a period of 490 years after a decree is made until the time of the end and Christ's second coming. August 15th, 2024 will be exactly 490 years after the Jesuit order was birthed on August 15th, 1534. Okay? So there we have it. This will prove to you everything that I have just said. If you are a Catholic listening to this or a New Ager, be warned. The reason why Jimmy Carter will die on August 15th is to prove to you what I have just said. And the proof of this too is that it will be exactly 490 years after the Jesuit order was birthed. And Carter is symbolism for king in God's signs, and I explained that in the other videos. And we are talking about the Antichrist king And so, anyway, also know this too. I know far better than you the reason for this prediction that is from God. The reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction. It is to give the stern warning that I just gave. All right? I've been working on this knowledge that has enabled me to get this prediction for many years now, and I know what God is communicating through his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, but his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections will be proven to be true when the prediction comes to pass. And therefore, all of what I'm saying, the conclusions from the big picture of signs, will be a fact. And so what I have just explained is true. Come out of her, my people, as it says in Bible prophecy, speaking to Catholics. Come out of the Catholic system. Okay. The Jesuit order was officially formed with the Pope's approval on the date 927 in 1540. In the prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, the final period of the Antichrist is described in the last verse of the chapter, Daniel 9:27, which is what the date 927 hints at. Daniel 9:27 describes the final symbolic 7-year period of the 490 years. In other words, the beginning of the final symbolic 7 years is after 483 years from the decree from the Pope that made the Jesuit order official. Currently, we are in the 483rd year from the decree to establish the Jesuit order. Yeah, the decree that I'm referring to in the central prophecy, the Daniel chapter 9 prophecy, the 490 years begins with the decree. But so did the Jesuit order. And we are in the 483rd year of the Jesuit order, and the decree gives 483 years to the first coming, exactly. And I explain that in other videos, so make sure you watch all of the videos. And so, I won't explain it again, but anyway, that's why the 483 years is extremely relevant here, because it, in other words, symbolizes the beginning of the end times period, the final symbolic 7 years. That's why we are now in the 483rd year of the establishment with the decree of the Jesuit order. We are in the beginning of the end times. Of course, it won't be 7 years. It's only symbolic. In fact, the 7 symbolic years began in 2017. The Pope's rule as the Antichrist will be very brief, and the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ will be on December 26th, 2024. And also when this prediction comes to pass, it will prove this. Okay, so I think that's clear. In the Bible, or in Bible prophecy, the Antichrist is the Pope. That's more than clear, by the way. It's astounding, beyond words, how it is, because I didn't grow up a Christian. I came into Christianity in my adult years and discovered that contrary to how obvious it is, and there are Christians that know how obvious it is, that the majority of Protestant Christians do not know that the Pope is the Antichrist. It's impossible, literally, to the nth degree, impossible for the Antichrist to be anything other than a Pope. It's quite abundantly, overwhelmingly, indisputably clear in Bible prophecy. It's just amazing beyond words that this knowledge has been lost in the last few decades, because it was known widely in Protestant culture 50 years ago, and there wouldn't have been a Reformation had it not been for this knowledge that the Pope is the Antichrist. And so, anyway, but of course this knowledge has been lost conveniently right before the end times in order for that there be this mass deception from the Antichrist, the Pope. Okay, so in Bible prophecy, the Antichrist is the Pope, and I mean that like, that's a statement. That's not like a subjective opinion thing, okay? Sorry to be so blunt, but time is short, and we need to, get clear on this sort of thing here. I mean, I could give you the verses. There's countless. There's quite a number of them that are so very can't be anything other than a pope. Okay, and this Antichrist is said to be. And speaking of which, one of them is Daniel 9:27, Because the verse prior to it, Daniel 9:26, let's just go with one verse, okay? This one example. So Daniel 9:26 speaks of how the ruler who will come, which is described in the next verse, the Antichrist, will be of the people that will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Well, the people that destroyed the city and the sanctuary were the Romans. And the Roman emperors became popes. The first pope was an emperor. That's how popes got started, right? So it's quite clear from Daniel 9:26. It says it right there in the text. It's so clear. The ruler who will come, the Antichrist, is of the people that will destroy the city and the sanctuary. That's a pope. Daniel chapter 8, the prior chapter, it says that the Antichrist will come from the north and the west. Exactly due northwest of Jerusalem is Rome. I mean, it's exactly due northwest because that's because of the prophecy. Okay. And that's just scratching the surface. But that's enough, actually. Because you can't, I mean, that's enough. That's clearly the Pope. Now, all right. So, in Bible prophecy, the Antichrist is the Pope. And this Antichrist is said to be able to perform miracles and wonders. It is said that God will give the Antichrist powers in order to deceive people. People who will get the deception that they ask for. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I explained this already. In the 1950s, the British government conducted experiments to seed clouds to induce rainfall. There is a conspiracy theory that a historic and deadly flooding on August 15th, 1952, in Lynmouth, England, was caused by such experiments. It wasn't, but nonetheless, God uses this for symbolism in his prophetic signs. This is symbolism for man manipulating the weather. If I didn't say that correct, what I wanted to say was that God uses conspiracy theories to symbolism for his signs. For example, the Roswell, the most known UFO conspiracy theory God has used, okay, in his signs. You'll learn about this in other videos. So anyway, there is this very well-known conspiracy theory among people that think that the governments are shaping the weather, all right, literally in our current time, and they refer to this as the beginning of this reality, and they refer to this flooding specifically. They refer to August 15th, 1952. It's like Roswell, July 4th, 1947. Well, this conspiracy theory is August 15th, 1952, okay? In other words, this represents what I'm talking about, man manipulating weather. Now, the flooding was in Lynmouth, England, okay? And, which is likely, so next sentence, which is likely one of the ways in which Pope Francis will deceive the masses, okay? Through manipulating the weather. That's what is being hinted at here. Okay, because again, what I'm saying is that Bible prophecy tells us that God will give the Antichrist these powers that will deceive people. Massive powers the Antichrist is going to receive, okay? And we have this connection to this event that symbolizes man manipulating weather, okay? And it's likely that one of the ways in which Pope Francis will deceive the masses is through manipulating weather. It will be the inverse, and Satan generally, that's what he does, is inverse things in the Bible and the truth. It will be the inverse of Elijah in the Bible, who proved the truth about the God of Israel through calling for rain. This aligns with another prophecy regarding Satan and the Antichrist, in which the Antichrist attempts to drown people with a river of water in Revelation chapter 12. So this attempting to drown the people with a river of water, you could certainly think that this is what God is communicating here with this connection to the Lynmouth conspiracy theory, the flooding conspiracy theory, okay? The flooding in Lynmouth was a flash flood of water, just like the flash flood that is described in Revelation chapter 12, that drained over an escarpment. The Lynmouth flooding caused 34 deaths. 2 times 17 deaths hints at the date on which the flood began in the Bible, the date 217. In God's signs, the predicted death of Jimmy Carter on August 15th, 2024 will be symbolism for the death of Methuselah in the Bible. Methuselah died at the time that the flood began. The name Methuselah means when he dies, destruction. Carter's, as in Methuselah's, death will be exactly 72 years after the historic flooding in Lynmouth. 72 is 2 times 6 times 6 years, and Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, is the 266th pope, which is the reason for this 72 years, 2 times 6 times 6 years connection. Carter's wife, Rosalind, hints at Lynmouth. Rosalind Carter is equal to 990 in Hebrew gematria, and Jimmy Carter is predicted to die exactly 90 plus 90 plus 90 days after Rosalind Carter died. And when that happens, it will prove that God is pointing to the Lynmouth flooding, which is the conspiracy theory about man manipulating weather, which is what the Pope will do. And that's why the 72 years back from the death of Jimmy Carter. And it will prove everything that I'm saying so far in this video and the rest of what I will say in this video, that the Pope is the Antichrist, and the reason why he is the Antichrist is because he's a Pope. Because contrary to what the conservative Catholics will say, as him being an undesirable Pope or a bad Pope, that's false. All popes throughout all of history have been lowercase antichrists, lowercase a antichrists. The office of papacy itself is antichrist. It is blasphemy. All right, now Carter is king symbolism, as I have explained, and Carter was placed in the hospice on February 18th, 2023, and February 18th is the anniversary of Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Thesis, which is relevant to Jimmy Carter, as I will continue to explain, because Carter was the first president to host Pope at the White House, as I mentioned. And of course, the 95 Thesis is about the protest of Catholicism. That's also why God, through Carter, is pointing to the date 9/5. Also, Martin Luther King, Carter's king symbolism, Martin Luther King, would have been 95 years old this year. So that's also relevant, because Martin Luther King would have been 95 years old this year, because it too is pointing to the 95 Thesis. Now, much more, is explained in the absolute amazing must-watch Taylor Swift Super Bowl video. But Super Bowl 58 pointed to Pope Francis, and again, Pope Francis, and again, Jimmy Carter. Okay, so Jimmy Carter's symbolism for this prophecy about the 5th through 8th kings. And the secondary fulfillment of it is Barack Obama. But the primary fulfillment, the literal fulfillment, if you will, it points to Pope Francis. Okay, and I've explained that in other videos, actually. So anyway, but Super Bowl 58 pointed to Pope Francis. It involved, for one thing, the team from San Francisco, all right, and much more. It's explained in the other video. And the San Francisco Dam in Los Angeles collapsed exactly 85 years before the election of Pope Francis. The 85 years is a hint at 58, and this prophecy regarding the fifth through eighth kings, which points to Pope Francis as the Antichrist. But anyway, that day of the Super Bowl, which, by the way, was played in Sin City, the first one to be played, and God uses firsts for his signs. And it was in the 36th state, and 36 symbolizes 666, the number of the Antichrist. It is 6 times 6 and 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number, which is 666, and the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 36 equals 666. Anyway, this Super Bowl was played on exactly 95 years after the Lateran Treaty was signed, making Vatican City an independent state. And Vatican City is Mystery Babylon. It's spoken of also in the 5th through 8th King's prophecy. The Lateran Treaty was signed on February 11th, 1929. Let's see. Exactly 27 days after Martin Luther King was born on January 15th, 1929. 27 equals 3 times 9, which hints at the 39th president. But also, this 27 days here, okay, because February 11th, 2024, the date of the Super Bowl, is also 207 days before the date 9/5. And again, the Super Bowl was played on the 95th anniversary of the Lateran Treaty. So we have two 27s here, 27 days and 207 days. And they confirm each other, and that's how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. So we have the 27s confirming each other here, but what's the point of all this? Well, it's this. These combinations of 7s and 2s seem to hint at the number 72, because 72 is a number God is using to point to 2 times 6 times 6 and the 266th Pope Francis, the Antichrist. There's another series of 2s here, because 9/5 is 227 days after Dexter Scott King reportedly passed away, who is the son of Martin Luther King. Also, 9/5 is 7 months and 22 days after Martin Luther King's 95th birthday. So that's amazing. So clearly, we are talking about the date 9/5, hinting at the 95 thesis, and therefore pointing squarely at Catholicism, which is not Christianity. It is not a legitimate denomination of Christianity. It is not the Bible. It is man-made tradition on top of the Bible. Okay? And it is paganism wrapped in a wrapper that makes it look like Christianity. When Rome converted to Christianity in 313 AD, which incidentally is why Pope Francis was elected Pope on the date 313 in 2013, when Rome converted to Christianity in 313 AD, it didn't do away with its pagan religion. It just repackaged it, which is why, the worship of Mary and all the artwork throughout the centuries involving Mary, depicting baby Jesus, making Jesus a footnote to Mary, which is Satan's purpose, because Catholicism is the wolf in sheep's clothing. All of that is analogous to the worship of the fertility goddess, Isis, Aphrodite, Ishtar, same artwork, same everything. People have a desire to want to worship the fertility, pagans, I should say. And so I could go on for hours about how the parallels between pagan religion and Catholicism. And if you don't know any of this, you need to look into it, especially if you are a Catholic. Because, as the Bible says, come out of her, my people. The purpose, the reason why the Antichrist is the Pope, is to finally get Catholics to make a decision. Look, you're either going to follow the Pope or you're going to follow God. God is saying, follow me or follow the Pope. Make a decision. Enough of this. Enough of this silliness. It's time to decide. You're going to, and God is going to make it very clear that Pope Francis is evil. But to the conservative Catholics out there watching this, listening to this, make no mistake. It isn't because this particular Pope is bad. All popes throughout all of the centuries have been lowercase a antichrists. The office of papacy is blasphemy, and that is why the Pope is the Antichrist. Period. Make no mistake, I know far better than you the reason why God has given me a voice to this prediction. It is to prove these things. Okay? And no, popes do not have the authority to make up all of this man-made religion on top of the Bible. Okay? So, anyway, just thought I would elaborate more since we were talking so much about the Pope in this video here. I'll add this too regarding this idea that Catholics have, that they have the authority to make up all of this new religion on top of the Bible, and that this authority comes from the Pope, who is supposedly descendants of Peter, but Peter was never in Rome, and he referred to Rome as Babylon in his writings, which most Catholics never read. And I'll just say this too, I was in for a long time in supposedly conservative Catholic Poland, where they're supposed to be the, I guess, most Catholic of the European countries. And I went into a bookstore, a big chain bookstore that is a Polish chain. It is a Polish company. It's a big chain store, and they do not sell Bibles. That's because Catholics don't read the Bible, because Catholicism isn't the Bible. And anyway, what I wanted to say is that the entire Catholic religion hinges on one particular verse, which is Matthew 16:19 or 18, where it says that Jesus asked his disciples who they think he is. And Peter replied that he was the Christ. He was the first one to do this, to say out loud that Jesus was the Messiah, is the Messiah. And Jesus responded to Peter and said to Peter, Simon, you are Peter. On this rock I will build my church. Now the name Peter in Greek is Petros, which means rock or a stone, a pebble. It's different than the other masculine version of rock in Greek, which is Petra, which means bedrock. And bedrock is something you build something on, a foundation for a building. So the two words, Petros and Petra, are different. And Peter was named Petros, but then Jesus said he would build his church on this Petra, this rock. Well, what rock? Peter? Or the truth that Peter had just said, which is that Jesus is the Messiah? Well, obviously it's the latter. And of course, Jesus isn't going to build his church on a man. And if a Catholic were to have a biblical worldview, they would understand that man is inherently sinful and evil. That's the Bible. Jesus said that, even. And so, Jesus isn't going to build his church on a man. Furthermore, as time goes, man becomes progressively more evil and more corrupt, which is exactly what has happened to the Catholic Church over the centuries. It's gotten progressively more and more corrupt, with more and more false doctrine on top of the Bible. It's a man-centered religion with a man at the top of a pyramid or hierarchy of men, where you go into a booth and confess your sins to a man. And and do them again. And so that you can do them again. And so, anyway, it isn't Christianity. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing. And the thing is that the thing that God hates the most, if you read the Bible, the thing that God hates the most is false religion, false religious worship, which is what the Jews were constantly doing, and for which God was constantly chastising them and warning them and punishing them for, which is why they were exiled. The Jews were mixing their true religion with the pagan religions of their neighbors. But that's exactly what Catholicism is. It's a mixture of paganism and Christianity. The thing that God hates the most. Which is why the Pope is the Antichrist, and Catholics need to come out of her. Now, I'm not saying that all Catholics won't be saved. And I'm not saying I hate Catholics. If you think this is an act of love. It's the same thing. Accusing me of hating Catholics is the same thing as accusing a Christian of hating homosexuals. You warn a homosexual because you love them, you don't want them to go to hell. Now, I'm not saying all Catholics will go to hell, but the trajectory of the vast majority of them are. The vast majority of Catholics do not know Christ, and you need to have a personal relationship with Christ to go from life to life. Now, if a Catholic is to be saved, it will be in spite of their Catholicism, not because of it. What I want to just summarize here too, come back to it and just finish this, is that this Catholic religion hinges on this one verse, and when you disprove this verse, which is used to claim that their entire religion is valid because popes are descendant of Peter, then you disprove the entire Catholic religion. All right? Now, of course, I've mentioned this, I've explained this to many Catholics, and of course, none of them listen. Hopefully, this prediction will make them finally listen, but the truth is that they love their man-made religion and their traditions. God hates man-made traditions. They love it. So they're not with God, but they would rather be with their man-made religion and traditions than with God. And furthermore, they mostly don't know any better because they don't read the Bible and they don't care to read the Bible. And so they just don't care about God, essentially. It's amazing to me, that I'll speak with Catholics and they'll claim to believe that Jesus is God in the flesh and he came to earth, but they're not interested in learning about what Jesus had to say. That's astounding. You think that God became a man, Jesus, and came to earth and spoke, and you're not interested in studying and reading what he had to say. That's Catholicism for you. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing. The purpose of it is to trick these Catholics into their traditions, believing that this is what saves them. Right? That's Satan's trick. It was designed to bring, so after Satan's strategy was, after Christianity was spreading, was to concoct this Catholicism to bring in the masses into a form of something that looked like Christianity in order to fool them. That's exactly what Catholicism, it's like bringing in the masses. Now everyone is a supposed Christian. And that brought in the money, which Jesus warned against, the preaching for money, etc. And gave people titles and made people supposedly anointed. And that's what the word Jesus is referring to in his first warning to the disciples. He said in the Olivet Discourse, Be warned that many people will come claiming to be anointed. The word is Christ, but the word Christ is in Greek means Messiah, and Messiah means anointed one. And there are other instances in the Bible where the term anointed one is used and not in context of Lord Jesus Christ. So Jesus said there will be many anointed ones coming, claiming to be anointed in my name, bishops, popes, pastors, etc., that will lead many people astray. Now, he is talking about reverends, bishops, pastors, and popes. He isn't talking about people that come to claim to be literally Lord Jesus Christ. That's not what he said. Furthermore, there haven't been many of them, and the ones that have come have all been recognized to be people that are in poor mental health. No one follows them. They haven't led many people astray. Whereas bishops, popes, and pastors have led many people astray. And that's why Jesus warned to not call anyone your teacher. You have only one teacher and one flock. Jesus is very angry with 45,000 different denominations of Christianity. These denominations are institutionalized through the monetization of the church. And the one thing that Jesus got violently angry over when he was on earth was the monetization of his church. That's why Jesus forbid the preaching for money, because he knew that this is exactly what would happen. You would institutionalize these errors that wouldn't otherwise be passed down and institutionalized, like Catholicism or Jehovah's Witness or Seventh-day Adventism or Calvinism and evangelical or dispensationalism. There are many, just as many false heretical doctrines that evangelicals have as well. So okay, that is my diatribe here on Catholicism and the reason for the Antichrist being a pope. The combinations of 7s and 2s may also hint at 2 7s, as in 77, and Carter, his inauguration in 77, which began a parallel of 7 kings. Of course, Carter was the first president to host a pope at the White House. In fact, 77 may hint at 2 7s, and 72, which is 2 times 6 times 6, which hints at the 266th Pope, Pope Francis, the Antichrist. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.